The document that we're looking at is called Strokes, and we're just going to cover a few things about working with strokes in Illustrator. So the first thing is stroke alignment. So with this outside stroke here, I've set it to this teal color. I'm going to go to the stroke panel, and one of the things with this panel is sometimes when you open it, it's fully collapsed down like this and all the good stuff is hidden. For some reason, Adobe thinks that's a good idea. I don't. So you click on this little arrow here to reveal all the good stuff to do with strokes. So I'm going to change the weight, which you can also do on your control panel up here and several places. I'm going to change it up to 12 points. And you'll see that the stroke is aligned on the path. And you have this align stroke option where you can align the stroke to the inside of the path or the outside of the path. So I'm going to leave it on the outside of the path. Then this inside separate stroke here, I'm going to give it a dashed line. Okay, so if I click away, you can see that it's now a dashed line. And I'm also going to apply a profile to it. So if I go up here to basic, you can see that I can choose, actually I cannot apply a profile to it until I make it an open path. So it's at the moment a dashed closed path. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors and I'm just going to snip the path there and there. And you can see the moment it's an open path, my path profile option becomes available there and there. So I'm just going to choose this profile, width profile 1, and I'm going to increase the width so that you can see I now have quite an interesting dotted or dashed path that goes from narrow to fat to narrow again. I'm also going to add arrowheads here. So I'll select it and I'll put the arrowhead to this one and the arrow tail to that one. They're a little bit big, so I'll bring the percentage down here for each one. Okay, so now I have a much more interesting result. You can customize your dashed lines, and you can also swap around your arrowheads and change the alignment of them in terms of the last point of the path. But I want to move on to this feather shape here. So you can see that it's got the stem of the feather here. Now what I want to do is, instead of just applying a standard profile, I'm actually going to use something called the width tool. So I'm going to click on the width tool and zoom in a bit here, and you can see what I can now do is drag on this path to adjust the width in different places. So I'm going to make it a bit narrower there and let's make it also a bit narrower. Whoops, I've got to be careful here. Okay, I'm going to go back to my selection tool and double click to isolate this so that I don't accidentally mess around with the other parts of the feather. And then I'll go back to the width tool. Now I just want it to be a bit narrower there. Okay, so I've got a nice profile here for this stem of the feather. Now, for the rest of the feather, which is actually a group, I could also apply a standard profile, but what I want to do is take this stem profile that I made, the custom one, and save it. So I'm going to go here and click on this little down arrow, and I'll call it feather. Okay, and then I'm going to select the group of the rest of the feather, and I'm going to apply that custom feather that custom profile here, and then adjust the size until I get something that I like. Okay, so if I click away, yeah, so that's looking much better. In fact, I think I can probably go up to 10 points here. Okay, so a much nicer result. Now, one word of caution with applying profiles is once you're finished with them and you now want to save this document for sending to a printer or exporting or whatever, it's a good idea to expand your profile so that it doesn't get removed if you open the document up in an older version of Illustrator. It can happen. So what we're going to do is select the whole thing, and we're going to go Object, Expand Appearance, and so it now makes shapes, and then I'm going to go to my Pathfinder and say Unite. So I now have a solid shape. It hasn't done such a good job here. Oh, that's all right. So that's now baked into one shape, which means that nothing can get lost in translation if I send this as an SVG or something like that. All right, so that's just a little bit of some of the more advanced things you can do with strokes.